Hi, I'm Julie Aubal. I'm editor of Wedding Market News, and this is our second edition of the Wedding Market Blab. And today we're going to talk about how to win the bride with Webb. Now, I know that you were just recently at the Wedding NBA, and you even kind of talked about this subject a little bit. Yes, and then I saw just recently this week that you had a video on YouTube that was talking about how to win the bride. And I'm telling you folks, she was killing me. She was doing these little skits on all these different wedding pros, like wedding planners, answering the phone and talking to their brides in all these different types of scenarios. It was absolutely hysterical.
The New York lady who was saying, listen, darling, I've been in this business a very long time. David Tutora has nothing on me. What I think you should do. And then, of course, we talked about why that maybe isn't the best way to approach the bride. We'll go into that a little bit later. It was fun.
Well, the one that I loved the most was the one where she was like the celebrity wedding planner, and she did not have time to meet the bride.
Darla Sloan Weddings and Events.
Yes, that was funny.
Didn't remember the name correctly and couldn't see her for 9 months because she has some very important celebrity weddings that are coming before. Obviously, that's not the way to serve our brides or to win our brides. So
exactly.
Some characters. We've all met those people, and we try not to be like that. But it was fun.
Yeah. Well, if for those of you that haven't seen BB's YouTube channel, check out BB Webb on YouTube and How to Win the Bride, and you'll see these funny comedy sketches. It's just absolutely hysterical. But but anyway, what do you think is important to really win today's bride nowadays? I mean, over the years, it certainly has changed.
Well, I don't know if these key thoughts that I'm going to share have really changed. I think they're the way you really work with any client who you want to win. I think, first of all, there has to be a consistency within your organization of how you approach the bride and how you win the bride. And certainly in this demographic, dealing with managing and working with brides and their families, the key, I think, is really listening to what's important to them, what their vision is. I share in one of my talks that if a woman is 27 years old, she's been alive almost 10,000 days. And we're responsible for making this one most important day to date in her life extraordinary and memorable. And the way to do that is to listen to what's important to her. It's not about us. It's not about all of our features and benefits with our product, our service, but it's about what's important to her. And that took me a little while to learn. In the business, I was so excited at the beginning, starting 13 years ago, about all these different offerings we had, and I forgot to really listen to what she wanted. One bride I remember working with years ago was adamant. She wanted tulle everywhere on our ballroom staircase. For those of you who don't know, I own a special event venue called Carl House in Georgia. And that didn't come with our offerings. Tulle wasn't part of it. Now, I wasn't really listening because through all of our meetings, she was just kind of unhappy. And when I finally I said, what is it? What's missing? She goes, well, I want tulle. I want you to provide tulle. I went out and priced tulle. For $100 bolt of tulle, I could completely wrap my whole ballroom and staircase and every room in my house. So it was a small thing to do to really please her and make sure that I was giving her what she wanted and exceeding her expectations. So sometimes I think it's looking at what you offer and what they want, and is it a match? And you've got the main things that you offer and can do, but if there's something else they're wanting, is it possible, or working with a partner to give it to them? So I think the first skill is really genuinely listening to what's important to them. That's where I'd start.
Now, what would be your suggestion when you first meet the bride? What are some of the things that they should keep in mind when they first meet that client?
Well, I think if they're meeting at your space, your office or something, I think one of the first things is being prepared for them. I'm adamant. It's written in our manuals. There's music playing, a candle, so everything smells good. We have our chef make cookies, fresh coffee. Our event person is ready to meet the client. They don't answer the phone during, an appointment, but we're really there to be present with them. I think that's the most important thing. And I know it's one of the differentiators in my company. Sometimes when we'll call other places to kind of spy on what other people are doing, I'm surprised at sometimes how calls go to voicemail. But when somebody's coming in and you've taken the time to meet them, we need to be prepared, dressed appropriately. I have in my company, I ask that everyone's alerted when a bride comes. Marcy's coming to have a tour. And that if my finance person is on the third floor, she makes a point to come down and say, hey, I'm Kathy. I'm in finance. I'll be working with you. Or our wedding director, or our floral designer, our marketing person, our general manager. Hey, so they see that it's a real team effort, that we're all here. Our main purpose is to serve the bride. And we're dressed for it. We're prepared to see her. We know her name. We know whatever background. And she's greeted with graciousness and hospitality. And I use the expression, we love on them. We love on them. And if we are not the right fit, then we're sure we have different partners who we align with in my business, other venues, who, if we're not the right fit or price range, we will refer other partners who we think would be a great fit. So one way or another, we're trying to serve and help the bride in her planning. And even if she's not doing business directly with us, we hope that then she'll say, hey, I met Angela at Carl House. She was incredible. It wasn't the right fit. They didn't have our date, but gosh, they were super helpful. We had coffee. I met the owner's dog, Buddy, the director of First Impressions. I met a lot of the team. What a great company. And maybe they'll want to spread the word. So that's part of the pay it forward that I think is important for any of us. We can't just offer a good service or product. We have to have a methodology within our companies that everyone is aware of on how we serve the bride and her family and her guests. It's not just the bride, but she wants to know that at the event, every single one of her people is going to be well tended to. So it's a work in progress. I mean, I think it's, embracing continual improvement in your organization and just trying to keep that bar really, really, really high. I have no bones about being extremely preferential in my company. That's my job. That's what I'm paid for. And I think that everybody has to really be aware of what's a differentiator, what sets you apart, your secret sauce in your company that differentiates you as a DJ or a floral designer or a planner. What do you do differently that people go, wow, you know why I chose her? Because XYZ. She listened, she's ready, she went the extra mile, those kind of things. She referred me to great people. So it's those little extras that I think really in this day and age where, we're immersed in technology and sometimes a lack of one-on-one human connection. That's a key differentiator, I think, certainly in our business, where the emotional IQ and anyone working in this business needs to be very, very, very high. This is an emotional sale in winning the bride. So being aware of, we're running a business and we're dealing with a very emotional, important event in this person's life, and that probably there's some challenges. There might be little disagreements between different members of the family. So, just the scope of all that's involved in planning this event, and to not forget that it's unique for each person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny that you were talking about how you get all of your team involved. As many times I've heard stories where a bride would come in and people didn't appear to be ready. The whole team, they didn't even, in some cases I've heard where vendors didn't even know that they had an appointment. And the bride comes in and no. No.
And listen, the book I wrote last year, Build Your Business, my notes from the high wire, I talk about all the things in the last 13 years that I've learned and a lot of the mistakes that I've made in not doing things correctly. And, that's where you really have to have a sense of forgiveness for yourself too, as you're building a business. There's a lot. And when I work with companies across the country, that's what I work on a lot. It's, hey, what did you learn? In fact, I have a talk called Adversity Rocks. leveraging adversity and going for the win. You can only learn sometimes, learn your best lessons through maybe not doing it correctly the first time, but wherever you can study what other people have done, I think, or I've worked with some really helpful coaches who have helped me see things that I just couldn't see. I was in the forest. And
I know when I was going through your material and so forth that you have a mission statement. How important do you feel that your mission statement is also in serving the bride?
It's huge. Well, we really call it our vision statement. I think that everyone kind of characterizes it differently. To me, the vision is it's the owner's responsibility to create what is the overarching intent of the company. And ours at Carl House is to create extraordinary, memorable events. And our mission is how we go about doing that, with a team mentality. And, we even use the word love in our mission statement, just loving on the brides and the attention to detail. And then we have a culture, which is really how do we handle conflict? That we're a company that is focused on systems, that we look to a system to correct a problem. It's not necessarily a people problem, but are we following the system that we set up? We're a culture of abundance and being inclusive and great communication, which is key with the client and also within the team, with your teammates. So I think having that vision, it's really what drives the organization, and everybody in your organization should know it. You're right down in my company, write down my servers, our gardeners, our vendors who supply, like for instance, food products and that kind of thing, and the wedding professionals that we work with. Because we always give them a sheet of, hey, this is how we work. We're not perfect at it, but this is our intent and the way we deal with conflict and the way we manage change or work together. And I just want to buy-in from everyone. Are you okay working that way? And our intent is, if something is a little off, we go back to those culture statements. Hey, remember, we're here about transparent communication and a respectfulness for everyone we work with and that sort of thing. But it's the guiding light, I think, for a company and the backbone, how you dress, how you speak, your intent with your client. And that keeps everything really focused and consistent. And when you think of some of the best companies, when you go into a Ritz-Carlton, it's rather consistent. The way they speak, the way they dress, the way you're treated. And I think sometimes in small companies, we're often doing so many things, we forget about that. But I think that's the overarching structure that really creates the guidelines that you need in running a company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you also talk about in your presentation actually how to get over price. So once you are talking with the bride and you're discussing price, what do you do?
That's a great point to bring up. We've found a lot with a lot of other venues opening up in the area that people are buying on price. And I've coached my team that what we're here to do is to share the value of what we offer. We're not apples to apples. We're not the same as other venues. And I think that anyone, whether it's a photographer or a DJ or a floral designer, what makes you different? What is the value? And what is it about your product or service that is priceless? And part of what we've been talking about, the way you treat the bride, your consistency in following up, your being present to what is important to them, those are the things that really are priceless that you need to make sure they know about, the differentiator that people will talk about long after their event is over. So I think that's really important. But if I could, Julie, I want to read this little paragraph that I shared at Wedding MBA that is an example of, once you've built that connection, because one of the first things I coach my sales team is, the first job when they come in is to lean forward. They've got a cookie, they've got great coffee, they've met my dog buddy. Lean forward, tell me about your event. Tell me about what you're dreaming. Tell me more. And the more information you get, you can then use that information as you talk about what you can offer. But you're not going to be talking about things that they're not interested in. I can't tell you how often, as I said in the past, where I've gone on and on about something that I realized later they weren't at all interested in. So you can really hone your presentation after you listen. But then when that dreaded question of, how much do you cost? And for us, it's so variable depending on the time of the year, what day on the weekend, what they choose for menus or whatnot. And I'm sure it's the same with other professionals in the field. This is a characteristic response I might have. I'm going to read this. Let's say her name's Annie.
Yeah.
And I might first lean in and say, Annie, if you don't mind, because I want to ask her permission, if you don't mind, before we talk about price, help me first understand what you're most envisioning for your important day. So I want to hear more about what she's envisioning before I can even talk about price. And if we're the right fit for you. So it's not assuming a sale. There's nothing pushy about this. We might not be the right fit. It's taking all the pressure off, the right fit for what you need, using a lot of you words. It's not about you as the company. So really watch as your salespeople are making those presentations. We offer this, we do that, I, we. So the more it can be about her. And then let's together then see, already assuming we're a team, let's together then see about customizing the right offer for you. And then I always ask, does that sound fair? Does that sound fair? So it's putting her completely in the control seat, but it's saying, let's dial back a minute. Let me find out what's important to you. And then when you have gone through what you can do, what you're able to offer, and you've listened to her, listened very carefully, it's really important for you to let her words inform you of how to give her exactly what she needs. So her words are informing you to give her exactly what she needs. And when the question of price comes up, you can very carefully educate her on this is the price for the different aspects that she feels are important. So you don't devalue your brand. When we give things away, we're not really honoring what it is that we offer. Obviously, we all adjust our pricing somewhat, and there's caveats that you can add in that are attractive, and certainly if it's a short booking or something like that. But I think to really help them understand the value of what you're offering based on what you've heard they need and they want, and then they can make the choices when they look at the priorities. Everybody wants everything, and often they want me to pay for it, by asking me to lower the price. And I say, well, I'm buying this house all by myself, because they'll say, we're doing this wedding all by ourselves. Well, I am, we're all running our businesses, and we have to, it's our responsibility to remain profitable. In fact, one of my favorite quotes from my father was, he was an entrepreneur, and when I was in the arts, my beginning career, he would lament at my constant lack of cash flow. And he said, honey, sweetheart, money isn't everything, but it does rank right up there with oxygen. And it's important. You need money to run your business, and you shouldn't sell yourself short. It doesn't mean that you can't negotiate. But I think when you work with people to educate them and find out what they need, you're in a closer place to work within. I don't like to use the word budget. I don't allow it at the company. It's just too restrictive to me. I get a stomach ache when I think of budget. But I ask my team to use the expression spending plan. Let's talk about your spending plan. And our job is to work to stay within your spending plan and to let you know what we offer within that. And again, the things that are priceless that we offer as well, that are the differentiators in our brand and our company. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, what do you think is like your secret sauce when you're meeting with the bride? What is it?
I think primarily creating a culture where they feel heard, embraced, the attention to detail, that we're flexible, we're owner operated, so we have a flexibility. I once landed a helicopter in the back 30 acres that I have. So if it's possible to do it, we'll do it. We're not cookie cutter. We have our processes and procedures that we know work, that we stay within, but within that, how to customize, and that we're also more of a one-stop shop, either with florals that we offer in-house or wedding planning, but we also love when other people come in, and so that we're flexible, and what's important to the bride. If she wants to bring in her own floral designer, great. If she wants a more inclusive package sort of thing, we can offer that. So we've just been listening to the brides and her families over the years to develop these services. But primarily, I think it's just they just feel really included in our culture, and they know that our team is going to serve them at a very, very high level.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk a little bit about branding. And, sometimes when I talk to people, they don't really know what branding is. Is it the business card? Is it the logo? I think people need to understand that.
Yeah, as I shared a little bit earlier, that it's really brand is everything you do. When I one time was interviewing wedding directors and a wedding director came to interview with me in flip-flops, I thought, wow, I guess I have to be specific with people that's not at all in our culture to arrive in flip-flops. I don't care how decorative they are. They weren't decorative. That there's a look for your company. Hey, if I had a skateboarding company, everybody would wear those little cute skirts and they'd have their hair pulled back and, it would be different. We'd slide around in skateboards and say, hey, yo, when somebody was at the door. But I'm a special event venue and there's a dress code and there's the way we speak. There's a certain kind of attention to detail that maybe in a different company would be different. So you're very different from mine. But I think really determining what is your brand, how do you speak to people? What's your preference as an owner or the person running the company? What is your vision? What's the culture? Inevitably we all manage challenging situations that come about. How do you handle challenging situations? What's the time frame that you call people back when they inquire? What's the process that you have for sales? We have 7 touches. We make sure that, people are busy. We have do you have a preference with text or email or phone? So all of those things that make up the way I have a quote that I use from a counselor I worked with years ago. He said, the way you do anything is the way you do everything. So how are you doing things in your company? Is it consistent across the board? Because everybody's coming in with different ideas of how to communicate or how to dress. It doesn't mean they're wrong, but as an owner, what is your preference? What is your preference for how you do things in your company? And so it's starting with that vision, defining a culture that everyone lives by, and making sure you have a communication structure so people are really clear to stay within those parameters. And I really advise creating, even if it's a small company, a manual. How do we run sales? How do we run operations? How do we open up the house? Or how do you manage sales and the way you, again, answer the phone, and how quickly do you get back? So it's just being preferential about every little piece of your company, which takes time. Mm-hmm. Which takes time. I'm in my 13th year, and my book is, I wrote about everything I've done wrong, but thankfully it's come to today, and we survived the challenges, and I think we're a lot stronger for it. But it's really being awake and being discerning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think one of the things the response rate, and I can tell you from my own experience, sometimes venues across the country, even their response time, it could be a week or 2 weeks later. No, see what I'm talking about? And it's been said, the sooner you contact that bride, the most likely that you can get that job.
I hear that with other, and I'm very supportive of my quote competitors. We all are in this area, but when I see that people are taking that much time, I think, well, great, more business for us if we're going to respond more quickly. But yeah, and I really love to help companies get to the next level and to maybe help them learn some things that I learned the hard way, to jumpstart your business, to get it to a different level of profitability, and to get those great reviews from putting these practices in place. So that's what I'm enjoying, because my company is now running more without me being there. I can be on more of a strategic level. So my goal is to be able to help other companies throughout the United States improve their business. It's really fun.
Now, could you tell us where we could get more information about your company? And
well, my venue is called Carl House with a C, so Carl House, CARL house.com. That's my special event venue just outside of Atlanta. You're all welcome to visit. And then my other company, my speaking and writing and media work, is Arriving with BB Webb. And someone asked recently, why the name Arriving? I love the idea that we're all constantly arriving at the next thought, the next idea, the next aha. And I like to be a part of that aha with people. And I'm really enjoying, I'm excited to write my next book. My first one that I wrote last year is Build Your Business, my notes from the high wire. But I'm having fun going throughout the country, speaking to people and workshops and consulting to help them improve their businesses. But happy to help in any way. It's fun.
Yeah. Is there anyone that could submit some messages on the right-hand side? Oh, there's a question right there. Tips for photographers to close brides.
I think similar to what I was saying, just finding out what's most important to them, over and above customer service, really tending to the details of what's important to them. We check in with them after the appointment. We send a send out card, which we usually take a picture of their favorite part of the house. Usually it's our ballroom staircase. We take a photo. We put it into the computer generated send out cards. It sends them a hard copy card with their photo on it saying, thank you so much for visiting the venue. You might do that as a photographer. So you're top of mind because she's probably visiting with several other photographers, but just to consider what differentiates you. And really it's showcasing yourself well as a professional, the follow-up, the checking in, making sure they feel really important and that you're going to spend, you're demonstrating that attention to detail that you're going to give her on her special day. That's what I would suggest.
Mm-hmm. Is there any other questions in the audience? Please submit them in the comment section on the right-hand side if you have a question. In the future, we'll work on doing some video questions in our open seat. But for today, since we're early into our Blab casting, then we're going to go ahead and take the questions from the right-hand side. So if there isn't any more questions, then we will close the broadcast out for today. But is there any more questions from the audience? Because I know several of you are new to Blab, and you're just learning this along with us. So it will take us some time as a group to learn the format and the do's and don'ts and what we will do with this format. Okay, there's a question that just came in. Being a venue owner, manager, how do you feel about vendors approaching you to become your preferred vendors? You actually talked about this at the Wedding MBA. Great question. Love it.
I had a special talk that I did. I gave two venue owners. I think you need to have a process in place because we're happy to be a sales and marketing arm, and that's what we typically are because we're kind of at the top of the food chain. But I think having a process in place on how you take inquiries, we usually send out a letter because we get emails every week, but really educating people on how best to approach you and the different models that you have for engaging with folks. We check references. We get an example of their work. We read about them online to see what kind of reviews, because we want to make sure that whatever they're offering is consistent with our brand. Because if I'm referring, it's my name out there, and I want to make sure they're really good. And we typically have a review process so that we're working very closely as partners. We do have some who work more closely, and we have a little bit of a revenue model where we take a slight commission, very small, but where we are a major sales and marketing arm for a couple of key wedding professionals who we work with, where we share their information on our website. We give out a special vellum envelope to our brides about some select people who we think really represent our brand really well and do a great job for us. And we also include them in blogs and newsletters. So we give them a lot of exposure. We spend a lot of time helping to market them. So that's a model that we have with some. We also have a bridal event that we host 3 to 4 times a year, and involve them in marketing events. So it depends what the right fit is for the people you're working with and how they fit in with you. But definitely creating a process and being respectful for everybody who comes. I try to educate people that when I'm at a networking, don't throw a bunch of cards at me or say, will you refer me? I don't know who you are. So that's when I say, hey, listen, our marketing director, Kimberly, handles that. We're happy to meet with you. If you'll contact her, we'll put you through a process and we can see if we're a fit. So it's really educating people, but as a venue owner, I think you really need to have the process to share with others. It's a great question.
Yeah. I think also a lot of times, people just think they'll come in and drop off some business cards and maybe have no idea anything about your venue or anything.
Yeah, and it's a good idea for those listening who want to approach venues, know about the venue, know who they are, what they are, and approach them in a very business manner for a win-win, not just, will you refer I'm trying to run my business, but what's the win-win? And maybe having some ideas on, hey, at your marketing events, I'd like to be able to contribute such and such, if in turn, so how can you create a win-win situation and approach whoever you're asking to refer you in a very business-like manner. So I have one DJ who's wonderful. We don't have a commission model with him, but we love when he works with us. He does a great job. And at the end of each event, he interviews the bride and the groom to say, hey, how did you like your experience at Carl House? How was the food? How was the staff? How was the team? And, it's a third-party endorsement, which is always better than you saying it yourself. So, and that creates a video, something that we can put online. So there's lots of creative ways that you can help one another. I'm all about working together, and even working with my quote competitors, other venues. We do a lot of work together, and if I have a date booked and I know there's another venue that's available, I will refer them, not just by saying, call this person. I'll pick up the phone or have my team pick up the phone. Hey, listen, Jennifer is getting married. We don't have the date. We think you'd be a great fit. So they know that you're really working on their behalf, and it's part of the pay it forward approach that I think works for us. They might not reciprocate directly, but you put that good energy out there, it'll come back to you. Guaranteed. That I know for sure. Yeah.
Now, is there any other questions that maybe you might want to ask BB? You can submit your comments or questions in there. But I have to say, BB, has been some great advice today. As far as, what was I going to say? A lot of times, the emotion or the passion that you share in those meetings with the bride, sometimes you will see some people when they're meeting with people, they're just going through the motions. It's like, that there's no passion there.
That is one thing I shared in my talk at Wedding MBA. If you aren't passionate about this business, we put a lot of hours in. We're dealing with a very, very important event in these people's lives. If you don't have a passion for what you do, then find something else, because it's not fair to them. This is not a widget business. This is dealing with the human heart, and probably they're spending more money than they've spent anywhere to date, potentially. So being mindful of that, and really that art and the science, you have to manage the business part. Because I've had some people who come in and they become very soft, and and at the same time you have to charge. If we don't charge for the business, nobody has a job. And we can't serve them at the high level. And for me, managing the venue and keeping it up to snuff and all that. And for you too, you deserve to receive compensation, fair compensation for the service you provide and the time you put in. But make sure you're presenting yourself so. But yeah, be in love with what you do. Life's too short.
Well, it's funny. I remember early on when I was on Twitter in the earlier days when it first came out, and some of the things you would see would be a photographer say, I hate weddings. And they were photographing weddings. And putting it out for the public to see. I don't know why it was even doing.
Well, and in the business too, it might be that you make fabulous cakes and you love to design and make cakes, but your strength isn't finance or marketing or sales or operations. For me, I know what I'm good at. I love working at the strategic level. I love serving at a high level. I love managing the different people who are the head managers in my company. And I know how I want the details. I'm very exacting about that. But I have other people better suited than me who are managing those details. So I think it's at a certain point in your business, at the beginning you're doing everything, but getting to a place where you're doing what you love, because we can't do it all. And that's part of the planning I do with a lot of companies when I consult is, how do you get to a place where you're focusing on what you love, and your business can be more successful that way? And sometimes it means you borrow a little money so you can hire people in earlier rather than later to grow the business. But anyhow, fun business to be in. And you need to feel honored to be able to work with these folks on their very special day. I am, and that they entrust us with their vision and their day. So I think that's very important.
Yes, definitely. Well, thank you so much, BB, for being on here today. And thank you so much for the Wedding Market community for joining our second Wedding Market Blab. And But for those of you that are new, I'm editor of weddingmarketnews.com, and we will do these events at least once a week. And for those of you who haven't joined us previously on Twitter, we do the Wedding Market Chat on Twitter every week at 1 o'clock Eastern on Wednesdays. So hope you will also join us on there. So
Julie, thank you for spreading the word and always being on the cutting edge of technology. You just do such a service for all of us in the wedding industry, and it's really appreciated. Thank you
for being on here today, and we will see you guys next week. So have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.